time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hi, everybody. This is a different episode for the Maturepreneur Podcast, one that we're experimenting with and hoping to add ongoingly. Once a month, a live coaching session with someone who wants to come and talk about what's next for them, what's working in their business, what's not working in their business. I had the pleasure of working with Ronnie Loaiza, who is a life coach out of California, and I really appreciate her honesty, her willingness to be vulnerable, and to kind of go all over the place. What I learned from doing the session is I really need to focus on one thing per episode. So this episode is really long. I think it's an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. You can watch the whole thing and watch the diagnostic part of this and how I kind of get a sense of where things are at. We looked at so many different things. That's part of why it went really long. Her background and her why and her childhood and what informed why she does the work she does, what some of those beliefs are that are getting in her way, especially when it comes to money, abundance, and selling herself, what her positioning is and what her business model might be and how she can be more effective in that, and generally what's getting in her way in her business. So as you can tell, that's a lot to cover in one session. Going forward, I promise, one question, one answer in the coaching session. So there'll be half an hour, not an hour and 15 minutes. But I hope that you find this instructional, educational. You can meta learn from my coaching, what worked, what didn't. You can also hopefully learn and see some of yourself in Ronnie, what's working for you, what's not, and take some of the suggestions I made to apply to you. Check back for further coaching sessions that will be shorter and again, live in person, off the cuff, walking on a tightrope without a pole or whatever. And if you would like to be coached, you can sign up, check the show notes. There's a link there for you to be able to join us for live coaching to get support and advice for your business. Thanks for listening to the Maturepreneur Podcast. Please let me know what you think of these live coaching sessions and whether we should keep them as one of our episodes per month. Thanks so much. Take care. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and I have been a coach for the better part of 40 years, so I decided that we were going to try something new on this podcast and record live coaching episodes so that you can, A, get some information that might apply to you, B, be inspired by the brave people who come here like Ronnie to get support and realize that you're not alone and some of the things you're struggling with in your business and your life. And C, just have some fun with a different format for this podcast. So welcome, Ronnie. I am so happy you are here. Thank you for being brave and vulnerable and real and being ready to be coached live and in person. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about you and what you do. So tell me, who you are. If you know what your purpose is, tell me that. So the who you are, you can include whatever you want, where you live, how many cats you have, whatever you would like, what your purpose is and what your current business model is. Okay. So who you are and just tell me about you.
All right. Well, thank you again. I'm really happy to be here. When becoming a coach, that kind of gives you a hint. We do have to go through, since I'm ICF accredited, just means International Coaching Federation, 140 to 150 audited hours. And so we have to provide coaching, us coaching other people. Whoa, the difference of being on the other side is like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't sound stupid. I'm going to have to answer honestly. I'm going to have to answer raw. So yeah. So I really laud people who are coached, because you think you want to be coached and then it's like, I got to admit some stuff to myself. You know what I mean? So Thank you. My name is Ronnie Loaiza, Ronnie Low Habit Coach, or Ronnie Low life coach. Lo is for Loaiza. I'm in Los Angeles, California, and I work virtually. And I guide people to get to their goals. And I know goal is big, but we all have goals. But I guide people to get to their goals every day with your daily goals. And the way I help them do that is, whoa, slow down with all the hacks, plans, programs, diets, challenges, whatever it is. And let's do one action. Repeat it. So it turns into a habit. So at the very least, you not only get on track, you stay on track if you do the minimal amount. I am a certified habit coach, and I'm a master certified professional coach, which is in life coach. And my passion is I love it when two things, and I've recently found out the second thing. When I speak on stage, and that could be virtual now, hybrid, on the actual physical stage, and I'm looking at people's eyeballs, and you see a glimmer or something, or a slight smile, it's like, ooh, they resonate, or that resonates with them. And especially when they talk to me afterward. So I know that I used to think, Janet, I'll shorten this up, but I used to think that they've said that, in all the social media content or speeches or talks, like people have said that. So, and on podcasts. So why would I be any different? Why would anybody care? The thing is, I'm learning that people like to hear themselves in you. So I'm fast finding that part of my passion and purpose in life is to talk. And that used to be really hard because I was very good at emceeing and getting other people to talk. But about myself, no. I liken it to like you host a party. I'm great at making sure everybody's mingling and meeting each other. And do you have enough to drink and eat? But I wasn't the one talking. I was a better host than a guest. Yeah. My other passion that came right before this is when I became a coach, when I started coaching people, and I would see results. Just that thing in my chest that told me, wow, this is serving that person right here. And I love that purpose.
All right. That's great information. Thank you. And so how long have you been coaching?
Since 2021, mostly since about 2022 is when I really got going. 2021 is because I was going through the accreditation and the learning and the education and the not pseudo coaching, but unpaid coaching and all of that.
Right. Okay. What made you transition into coaching from whatever you were doing before? What were you doing before?
Like a lot of people, there was such a thing in 2020, actually 2019, the pandemic. I was a personal trainer, a certified personal trainer. I still am. I keep that up because I do love it. And I still have a handful of clients, even though I don't solicit new clients. I was a personal trainer, and bing, bam, boom, we went on Zoom and started training on camera. And I had people telling me, I've got this friend. I remember this one lady, my boss, she is not taking care of herself, or my sister, or whatever. They weren't taking care of themselves physically, right? So I thought, I thought everybody bought a Peloton. I was joking, but not, because I thought everybody was hiking and doing all sorts of stuff. No, I just saw that because that's what my community did, because I was hanging out with people who worked out. Yeah. So I would offer to talk to them, and we would find out the crux of it. Much like what you do, you really get down deep and get to the crux of it. The problem wasn't really, I don't have time to work out. We had more time then. Yeah. But even though women, especially business women, whether they were in the C-suite or they were managers or they were team members, if you were the boss, you had to be there for your team because they were anxious times. If you were working for someone, you didn't want to be furloughed. So this was in the very beginning. So I'd get on camera, kind of talk to them, see it through what the real problem was, help them like I did as a personal trainer, just show up every day at the same time, and we would work out the schedule. Maybe it's 5 minutes before you start your workday, 5 minutes in the middle, 5 minutes right before you close your laptop, or right after, before you start dinner and all that. We would find when you could also to have those crucial conversations, because the kids were at home, the partner was at home, and even really like women you work with, really powerful women felt a little self-conscious working out at home. And we couldn't go to the gyms then. So I would help work through that and find the solutions, and mostly just create a habit and have those crucial conversations with people. So that's how I started it. And somebody said, wow, you really coached me so well. I'll never forget the person who said that to me. And I thought, fitness coaching? I haven't even trained you like physically.
Mhm.
And so I thought, fitness coaching? She's like, no, you just coach me through that. Somebody else said you really should be a life coach. I'm like, what the heck's a life coach? All of a sudden, everybody was becoming a coach of some sort. My sister had told me that years ago, and I was a little skeptical, but I finally researched it. There were like 32 on a list the first time I researched it. I mean, menopause coach, midlife coach, executive coach, performance coach, all these kind of coaches. So finally, I took it seriously. I said, I'm going to become a coach for me because I want the curriculum. I want to know what this is really about and how to do it well.
Right.
I wanted the certification. I have yet to be asked, email me your certification and your credentials.
Yes.
And I have them. Ask me, but I loved the behavioral change science. I loved what I was taking. It was like going back to college. And so that's when I decided to become a coach.
Okay. So tell me about your business. What is your business model and how is it working?
That's it. I don't have a model.
Okay. So
I'm on one directory. I used to be on 3, and sometimes I'll get somebody who bites. The thing like bark. I don't use bark, but that's an example. I don't know if you've heard of it. Some people have. Where you can, and people say, I'm looking for this kind of coach, and then like 5 people are allowed to bid or submit, and if that person picks you, then you have a discovery call. So really it's little by little, and I'm only coaching one-on-one, and I've been very scared to go group coaching. I haven't practiced it. I do well at workshops. I've held workshops, and I've participated in webinars and workshops, and I've actually gotten clients off of those. But I don't know why I've been afraid to start a group coaching when my one-on-one coaching isn't lucrative. I am paying the bills, so it's not a total flop, but I don't really have a business model.
Okay. So you mentioned you're paying the bills. So how much money do you want? Is this your full-time work?
I want it to be, right. But I want to do more paid speaking. I'm still doing some personal training. I'm still teaching senior fitness at 2 gyms. That doesn't pay much. It's $26 per class. Yep. But, somehow when I was doing my taxes in January, it's like, God, I made enough to pay the bills. Yep. But I want to make at least $150K a year. I'd be happy with $60K next year. I used to make that much.
Okay. All right. So you're making less than $60K right now.
I'm making less than 50 last year.
Okay. And so less than 50 right now, you want to get to $150K. What are you charging per hour for your coaching?
That's where one of my problems is. I'm one of those, and I read about it all the time. I offer them a discount before they even ask for one. Or if they're starting to like, oh, I don't know if I can afford this, blah, 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 I'll start discounting right away.
Yeah.
And I know I shouldn't.
Yes. Well, and we're going to talk about that because I knew that was the case before I even read anything about you or anything like that, because I can just tell. So what would your rate be if you charged your full rate?
Well, some people have paid me the full, and some people have paid me up front for the entire package. So I've offered a minimum, I have them sign an agreement. Yeah. 12 session package. So it's session, not hour. In other words, you could do 1 session a month. It's good for a year, or they can do 12 weeks straight. So I have a 12 session, a 24 session. Okay. And I always recommend that they try it at least the minimum 6 to 12 sessions, because as you know, the first 3 calls are really just getting on track and diving deep and getting to, peeling the layers away. Yeah. And then we really hit our stride and we know what our plan of action is. Right. So I would say $640 for 12, however that much is for session.
$640 for 12 sessions?
Yeah.
Okay. And for 24?
640 divided by 12. That's about 53 a session. Yeah. I'd like to go up to 75 a session, but I'm pretty scared.
Okay, so I'm here to tell you we have some work to do. Okay, so let me just get clear on a few more things. So tell me, and I already know you're going to push back on this, but tell me the problem you want to solve in the world. So here, let me start with a couple of different ways to access that. So I'm going to teleport you a magic wand. You can wave it and change one thing about yourself, other people, or the world. What's that one thing you're going to change?
I like to start with other people. Have them take action.
Okay, take action.
Planning and planning and planning and planning and thinking about it and trying all the bells and whistles and plans and programs and hacks and courses, and just do the simplest thing and do something every day.
And why do you care? It's take action so that, why? Why does that matter?
So they can achieve their goals,
okay,
whatever that goal is, and
why does that matter to you?
Live and not just exist.
Okay, and so what does live and not exist mean to you?
Well, that for Ronnie, it's different things, but for different people, it's also different things. But living is enjoying your life and spending time doing the things you like to do.
Okay. Why do you care if people are enjoying their life?
Because how sad and how pathetic if you, at the end of the day, when you end up underground or your ashes or whatever, you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. So, but that's them and their life, and that's over there. Why do you care?
Because I don't like seeing people suffer.
Okay. And why is it important to you that people achieve their goals?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not sitting around thinking about every person in the whole world. It's when people come to me or when I hear people complain about their goals, like I am about mine right now. It's like, well, you can do something about it. And I want to preface this because it's important to know about me. I'm very pragmatic.
Yep.
The reason I was a little skeptical of you should be a coach, because first of all, there were just too many coaches at the time, and they're not real coaches. I used to think I'm just not into all that woo-woo because I had tried all the woo-woo. Not really, but I thought I had. You know, when people said journal every day, it's like I just write the same thing every day, or I don't have time, or I'm not going to kick my heels 3 times and think I'll manifest. You know, people mistake manifest and all these affirmations and all these things, just like they play the lottery. Yeah. It's like those rituals are great if they're your medium to reinforce yourself to take action. Okay. That's what I'm not woo-woo about. Okay. So when you were growing up, I'm going to switch tracks a little bit here, and then we're going to bounce around. I want to do a little more diagnosis, and then we're going to dive into some pragmatic and practical solutions for you. When you were growing up, what was, if you could kind of give them a motto, what was your dad or whoever played that role, what was their motto in life? I love my parents. Yeah. But if I could turn back time and know what I know now, I would have talked to them a little bit more about just let me enjoy it. Their way of thinking was how they were brought up. Right. Was work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder. Okay, so that was Dad's mantra? I'm sorry? That was Dad's mantra, work harder? It was more like both my mom and dad, because they worked so hard and they thought that's how you achieve. Right. And they would not accept the fact that you were dumb. Yeah. I wasn't as bright. Okay, here's the thing I learned as an adult, way later and too late. It's not that I was dumb. Yeah. It's I learned differently. But you tell my parents that? Yeah. They didn't understand that because there was no such thing back then. It was all about discipline. Yeah. Now I know, and I'm specifically thinking of math, for example. Yep. I am so slow in math. Yep. It's not that I can't understand it. I can. I got a B+ in physics. The only reason I didn't get an A is because it took me so long to do the formulas, and so the exams were always up. Yep. But this physics themselves, loved it. When I can explain something, it reinforces it in my mind. Yeah. So it was the way I was taught. I shouldn't have been taught repetition, 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 memorizing math tables or whatever it is. I learn when I understand something. Now education is evolving and different people learn different ways. I didn't have that back then. It was just study, memorize, take the test, get an A. And what if you didn't achieve? What were you called? What was said about you? What was the judgment? I wasn't trying hard enough. I was a dreamer. I really wasn't. I mean, but what's wrong with being a dreamer? Yeah. That was it. And I was afraid they thought I was not as bright as my brother and sister because they barely looked at the title of a book and it was already in their brain.
So you were afraid that what? That they, what? By your
That
brother?
they would think I'm just not as bright as them.
Oh, okay. So were you ever told you were stupid or that you weren't bright or that you...
No, that I wasn't trying hard enough.
Not trying hard enough. Okay.
One time my mom said something like, and she regretted it later, "You seem really smart." She said it in Spanish. Intelligent. You seem really intelligent, but you're really not. I never forgot that. I was in 7th grade. Later on, when I told her that when I was an adult, she's like, "I didn't say that." "Yes, you did, Mom." She's like, "Well, I probably meant that." And then she explained herself.
Yeah.
Because I always sounded really, I was a preteen. Every preteen can sound stupid when we listen to them, but they're not. That's the way preteens talk.
Okay. So what would you say is what was your mom's mantra? What was her kind of biggest thing in life?
I don't know if there's a mantra, but the biggest thing in life?
Yeah. Or what do you remember her saying? Or even if she didn't say it out loud, it would have been what she was saying the most often. Like,
yeah.
Like,
God, well, see, okay, here's the thing. Do you see my hands? And for if people are just listening to this, my hands are in a peak. My fingertips are touching, not my thumbs, but my wrists are apart. So it's a triangle, upside down triangle or pyramid. My relationship with my mom, boom, changed. Because growing up, she was so hard on me. And I think she was harder on me than my brother and sister. But then we reached a point of we were women. Yeah. And I didn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
But it just kind of started evolving when I started getting to know her, not as my mother, but as a woman.
Yeah. So tell me about her being hard on you. What was she hard on you about? What was the underlying judgment?
She thought I was just this wild, rebellious thing. And so her judgment was like, you've got to get more disciplined.
Okay, because if you're not disciplined, then what?
Then you're going to fail. And
if you fail, then what?
I don't know. I guess not get far in life, not get the right husband, just get far in life and be poor.
Okay. So was that her primary concern, the relationship or the money?
What do you mean relationship? My relationship with somebody?
No, not get a husband.
Yeah.
Or be
okay.
Poor. Which one was more?
No. She was always the type that said, you don't have to get married before 30. You really don't. In fact, she didn't want us to. She wanted us all to go to graduate school.
Okay. And so part of her goal is go to graduate school, get good degrees, get good jobs, have a great career, make lots of money.
Yeah. And if we marry somebody with just as much money, if not more.
Okay, great. All right. So would you...
And my dad never pushed me to get married either.
Okay. Would you consider yourself wild and rebellious?
No.
What would you yourself?
I just wasn't like my sister, who's just very self-disciplined.
Yep.
And yeah, she became the matriarch of the family, really. I mean, she bossed my big brother, who was older than her. She bossed him around, and then she bossed my dad and mom around when they got older.
Right. So tell me, because you focus a lot on creating habits. So do you follow the standard way of creating habits? Do you do what everybody else does when they talk about achieving goals and creating habits?
Not anymore.
Okay. So you find different ways that work for you because you don't think the same way everybody else does.
I follow what I've learned in my education for it, but it's what I've been reading and thinking all along, that a habit is not like forcing a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
A habit, when you started, I've been reading and studying about habits for ages, just out of curiosity, way before this whole trend with James Cleary. God love him. Good for him. He just wrote his way of looking at it. But, Brian Fogg, and before him, all the way back to Aristotle, we've been talking about habits. Habits is not discipline. like the nuns would have you think. I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
A habit is literally something you don't think about. It's in your subconscious. It's not a struggle. So how do you do that? Well, when we were born, we started being conditioned. You don't wake up every day and think, what do I do now? Or how do I brush my teeth? You just do things that are habitual, right?
Right.
Same thing. You have your habitual way of thinking. And I've always thought that. That's why it fascinated me. And that's why I became a certified habit coach. So there is a process.
Okay.
And the best way, really.
Methodology path. I want to stay on the business side of it. Okay. Why do you think you don't charge for your services?
Because I'm so afraid of not working.
Sorry, what?
I'm so afraid of not working. I'd rather have a client pay me $36 a session than not have a client at all.
Oh, okay. So your scarcity shows up as if something better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the other belief around your value?
Okay. I don't believe that that I'm not giving them value. I think I'm shortchanging myself, but not because I'm not good at it. It's because I need to pay the bills. So the other belief is I've been afraid to just fall into one so-called niche or genre. Because
if you do,
there are two things. It's really weird. I would say 99% of my clients, when I coach them and train them in fitness and eating, are successful.
Yeah.
And not because I give them a menu, it's because we get into habits.
Yep.
But there are those that just fail because they quit, and that's their story and that's their thing. I'm afraid of I can coach. I'm afraid of not having clients. And I have coached people in different areas and fields. So I'm afraid to niche myself and have fewer clients, even though I know I keep reading that if you find one lane, others will find you. I'm so afraid to pick one area.
Okay. So, can I now just kind of bounce a bunch of things off you? I want you to check for what resonates and see what applies for you. But I'm going to kind of give you my diagnosis and then a prescription. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me if it resonates or doesn't resonate with you. All right, because I think part of the challenge is there's a bunch of different things going on, a bunch of different limiting beliefs, a bunch of different internal tapes or belief systems, et cetera, that are operating, and some practical externals in terms of market, model, fit, et cetera. So first thing I'm going to say is the work that I would encourage you to do is to go back and claim I'm going to call it black sheepness, okay? I suspect you are well, in the words of Barbara Scher, there are delvers and scanners. Okay.
What and scanners?
Delvers and scanners. So delvers are people who like to go deep. They want to study one subject. If you ask a delver to multitask, their butt goes tight. Scanners we used to be called Renaissance people, but now we're called flaky. But scanners are people who have a wide variety of interests. Their bookshelves are from A to Z or Z, and they love to bring together a bunch of different things. If you tell them to focus on one thing, their butt goes tight. Okay, so it's really a different orientation. They both have tremendous expertise and value. It's just oriented differently. And you need your delvers to be the bridge builders and the brain surgeons and so forth, because you need the implementation, but you need scanners because they are the visionaries, the creatives, the innovators who come up with solutions. Which of those two do you resonate with more, a delver or a scanner?
Mostly scanner, until I hit something, and then I can really delve deep.
Yes.
But when it comes to me and my actions for me, I'm a scanner.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's my guess. Now, the thing is with scanners, we don't work the same way as delvers do. A linear business model doesn't work. Having kind of the notion of even doing goal setting and creating habits and that kind of thing, structure does not typically work the same way. Now, there's freedom in structure. As a scanner, I rebelled against that a long time. However, structure for us is very different than structure for delvers. We need structure that is about accountability. We need to be able to work on multiple things, but we need to have enough structure to be able to get them across the finish line. Often that means accountability. So someone else that we're accountable to.
Sorry about that. Huh?
Because if it's just us, that doesn't sometimes motivate us as much. Okay. I definitely hear in you, Ronnie, a heart of service. I definitely hear in you someone who wants to make a difference to people, as you said, because you don't want to see them suffer. But I think that really the core of it is that for many parts of your life, you've had the gas and the brake on. That as a creative, and I think you are a creative and you're a scanner, you have been trying to be fit into the model of a delver and a disciplined, focused kind of person, and made wrong if that wasn't the case. And that's the case for many people who grew up with boomer parents, because that's their notion: work harder, etc. Which is not necessarily all that helpful, because then we make things harder than they need to be. So one of the things that I would say is embrace your difference as part of your positioning and as part of your niche. Rather than being a typical habit coach that talks all about, systems and discipline and focus and all of that kind of thing.
No, that's just it. That's the beauty of it. I can preach now on the structure because it's not about discipline. Exactly. It's not about willpower, and it's not about any of that. I make accountability fun.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh God, I got to check in.
Yeah. And so what I would suggest is your positioning needs to be what I call positioning against. Habit forming for people with no willpower. Goal achievement for rebels. So that you counter position what most people are, and you go where you are. In other words, you follow your strengths. You have been what I would call a quiet rebel, sometimes not so quiet, but basically a quiet rebel who didn't quite fit. You weren't like your brother and sister. You weren't like your mom and dad. You were the creative, the scanner, the innovator, the dreamer, the visionary, the person who sees things and sees the world differently, but you've been trying to do it the way other people do it. Embrace the fact that there are billions of people like you. I want you to hear that. It's billions with a B of scanners and people like you, rebels, black sheep, whatever we want to call them, in the world who don't feel like they fit in and that the standard systems don't work for them. Okay? Millions of them just in your area, just in the US, never mind, just in California, millions of them who, and so when you say, I don't know if there's enough people, give your head a shake. You literally, a micro market is over 1 million people. And a micro market is something like left-handed dads or left-handed soccer dads, or micro market is cougars. Now that's actually probably a much bigger market now, but micro markets, it used to be back in the 70s that it was a micro market. So micro markets are 1 million plus people. You don't need 1 million plus people. You need to get a roster of 20 clients. So there's 3 things that I'm going to recommend. May
I take notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And of course, we're recording, so you can go back over this recording. So there's 3 things that need to be addressed for you to move forward and be of more service to more people, because I think what you have is so valuable. There are so many people who feel like they don't quite fit. How they do life is not the way that is acceptable, valued, appreciated, and therefore they try and be something and do something and have something that doesn't fit for them. Okay, so I would encourage you to shift all of your positioning, all of your thinking to being contrarian, to going against the grain versus trying to fit within the model. Okay, because that's really who you are and who you serve. So embrace it. Go with that flow, because otherwise you're trying to swim upstream, and It's not effective or efficient. One, we've got some work to do on your belief around you and your value, and that sense of my value comes from money. Because the fear of not having clients is the fear of not having income, which is the fear of not being okay because I'm not making money. Okay. And it's not just about survival with you, it's about value. That I have to have a job, I have to make money, otherwise I'm not valuable. Okay. For some people, it's purely survival. I have to pay the bills or whatever, but for you, it's both. Okay. And I suspect it's more the thing about I'm not valuable if I'm not making money and contributing in that way, taking care of things in that way. So some beliefs around really that the value and my value comes from making money needs to be unhooked, because that's not where our value comes from. That's not what makes people valuable. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, shouldn't do it, don't want to do it, none of that. It just means that if you don't suddenly stop having value as a human being. Okay. That's one belief. The second belief is that you have to work hard. You have to make things harder, because one of the things that you are doing is making your business super hard by pricing way too low. Okay. Your full price is a half to a third of the marketplace. And I would say a third to a quarter of most coaches. Okay. I want you to hear most coaches at the very least charge $100, $250 an hour. Okay. And if you were just starting out and if you were just getting, some practicums and people in place, then I would say, okay, fine, do it for a little bit. The fact that you discount from where you're at, it really means your money set point is somewhere probably around $35 an hour, maybe 45. Okay. That is, honest to God, hun, you could probably go get a job and make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know.
That's not, and it's inappropriate in the market. It's inappropriate for a business, because when you add in business costs and so forth, you're really making maybe $15 an hour. So that's not tenable, sustainable, certainly not scalable. Okay. So, we're going to talk about positioning a little bit. We'll talk about pricing a little bit, and we'll talk about your market a little bit. I can't, resolve all of that in this short time, but we can talk about it some more later. But the internal piece is to work on value beliefs around where does my value actually come from, and unhooking those beliefs that because I am not disciplined, because I am not in what I would call that very structured way of being that your parents called for, and we haven't quite got to the bottom line, the end of that thread yet, but that way of being is not who you are. That has been something that you've kind of been apologizing for your whole life. Yeah. Stop apologizing for that. It's not who you are, and it's not a failing or a shortcoming. Who you are is a creative. Who you are is a scanner. Who you are is a tremendous gift in that arena, in that way. And half of the population or more is that. So love them, support them, validate them. There's a book by Barbara Sher called Refuse to Choose, that is about really validating scanners in the way that we are in the world. A little hard to find, but Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher, Sher. So stop apologizing for not being square. You are a star shape, not a square shape. Stop trying to be square. Be your pointy starred self, okay? Two, the scarcity beliefs around, I'm afraid I won't get clients, there's not enough clients, my niche is too small, I don't want to scale down, et cetera, et cetera. Girlfriend, there are literally millions of people in the world who need the support that you could provide, in terms of they need to create structure for themselves in a way that works for them. I'm one of those. I start goal setting systems, and I start habit stacking stuff, and I start that, but I don't maintain it because it's not my way of doing things. It's not what works for me. It doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means that the traditional ways of doing it don't work for me because they're geared towards delvers, not scanners. So be the alternative for the other half of the population.
Right.
And position yourself proudly in that realm and get that this market is underserved, undervalued, underappreciated, and underhelped with practical ways of getting more done. Okay, we want to get a lot done. We have lots of ideas. We have lots of dreams and visions and lots of things that we want to accomplish in the world, but don't because we don't have the supportive structure that helps us get things across the finish line. If you can do that with people, you are a very rare talent that is in high demand. All right. Literally, as you start doing the work you do, part of the reason Anthony Robbins makes millions of dollars for coaching one person, yes, he's been doing it a long time. But secondly, it's because he believes he's worth that. But it really is about the fact that he has ways of helping people accomplish things that they couldn't accomplish otherwise. Okay?
Yeah.
If you can do that, and you say you can, you've got a 99% success rate with your clients who do the work, that's a phenomenal statistic. Very unusual in the coaching world and the training world for that matter. That means that what you're doing...
It's because I approached it differently. I didn't just give them a workout or a diet. I just got them to do something. I didn't care if it was for 5 minutes. Yeah. Whatever worked.
Yeah, exactly. So position the, habit creation for rebels, personal lifestyle mastery for black sheep, that kind of thing. And what you were going to do is go and talk to your market, those people who have hired you and who have gotten great results with you. Those people, go and ask them what they call themselves. How do they think of themselves? How do they think of what they need? You go and write down what they say. Don't paraphrase it. Don't, approximate it. Write down exactly the words they use. What do they call themselves? Are they rebels? Are they, shit disturbers? What do they call themselves? And then that's who you market to. That is your market. A huge market, by the way. What do they say their top of mind problem is? It's not the cause. Most experts sell the solution to the cause. What people are looking for, and this is really important, is the solution to the effect. Okay? So what I mean by that is you might be saying, like, let me help you create stronger habits so you can accomplish your goals. Habits is a cause, or the problem is a lack of habit. Okay, that's causing the challenge because now everything that I do has to come from discipline and force and shoulds and have tos and guilt and all these other things that are not effective. But the effect is, I'm not getting the stuff done that's really important to me. I'm not achieving what matters to me. So I don't get to be the difference that I want to be in the world. That's the effect. The effect is I'm making less money than I want to make. I'm making less of an impact than I want to make. I'm not having the results that I want to have. And so your top clients that you've had, what were those things that were missing in their mind? What was the effect that was impinging on them that they articulated, that they were aware of? That's why they bought you. Not because you were going to help them with habits, not because you were going to help them with being more disciplined, not because you were going to help them achieve their goals even. It's because you got the pain and the challenge and the frustration of not having the results that I want and know that I could achieve and accomplish, know that I'm capable of, but I'm not living up to. I'm not living up to my potential. That's a heavy weight to carry. And that's the pain that a lot of people have when it comes to, especially later in life, if they're in their 20s, they don't know what their potential is. But later in life, when we have a sense of what our potential is and we're not living up to it, or we're not doing the things that help us accomplish it, like take care of our bodies, like have energy, etc. So you go ask them, why did you hire me? What was your primary concern? What was the primary driving thing? And then shut up, don't put words in their mouth, okay? Don't ask them too many leading questions. Just say, what was the problem that was going on at the time when you hired me? Write down exactly what they say. Write down, and then ask them, why did that matter to you? Write down exactly what they say, because people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it and why it matters to them. You need to get to your why and their why much more clearly. Okay. Now, when I say your why, my definition of your why is not what you do. It is why you do it. I consider it to be the intersection between what you're healing from the past and what you long for the future for yourself and others. That's why I was asking you about your childhood and what was that little girl dealing with? What did that little girl start to believe about herself and other people? What was the thing you were healing the most from? And we did a really cursory kind of examination of it, but it's some version of, I'm not okay as I am. I have to be something other than who I am, or be a way other than who I am, because who I am is not okay, not lovable, not acceptable, not right, whatever.
Not successful. Yeah.
Yeah. Not okay, not lovable. That's what it comes down to. Not enough. And that not enough story has been driving a lot of your results and is now showing up in terms of your money stuff as well. I'm not enough, so I can't charge enough. So we want to eliminate that story and use it as, this is a rough version and it's not the exact words, Ronnie, but I want you to kind of get the gist of it. Having grown up in a family whose whole way of being in the world was to work harder, and when you worked harder and you did more and you were really, really focused and smart, then you could be successful. If you didn't do those things, if you weren't making money, if you weren't smart, then you were less valuable. Then you were not seen as much. I know the pain of that personally. I'm speaking as if this is you. I know the pain of that personally, and I don't want that pain for other people. Just because you're different doesn't mean you're wrong. So if you don't do things like other people do them, that's great. It means that you have different gifts to bring to the world. I'm here to help you get those gifts into the world by helping you create the ways that work for you so you can be effective and you can have your unique contribution to the world. Just like I learned how to when I finally got past, I have to be who my parents think I should be. And I have to do life the way they did it.
Janet, I hear you. That really hits on point for me. I have a question for you.
Yep.
And I know we don't have all the time in the world. I mean, it would take a lot more, but why am I not attracting those who can afford it, but I'm attracting and not everybody, because it's not an absolute. Yeah. Why am I attracting those who cannot?
Because have you ever driven through the mountains and been going on a high mountain road and you look down into the valley?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really pretty and really gorgeous. And if you start to really focus on the river down in the valley and the trees down in the valley, where does the car start to go?
Down the ravine, off the edge.
Our intention follows attention. You've been focused on not enough money, paying the bills, getting by. People are broke. Some people don't have enough money. I need to just make enough.
No, but I'm paying attention to people who I know have the money. But then again, where are they? I mean, but if you say go where they are, well, where are they? Because networking groups, no, they're there to sell Mary Kay or whatever, accounting. LinkedIn, I do post on LinkedIn. So I don't know where to go to find people who, yes, I'm a rebel, and I will pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
Value.
Okay, so that's great question, and here's the real answer. First, it has to shift in you. It doesn't matter if you go into a room full of millionaires, if you've got the belief still operating that people can't afford it, it's, I'm too much, it's too much, a room full of people with money won't buy because it's not in alignment. It doesn't resonate with them. I was at a party once, I'll tell you the very short story, and I was there for a couple hours. No men were paying attention to me. And so I was whining and complaining to my girlfriend. And it's like, well, it's all about how we think and how we feel and about ourselves and so forth. And she said, well, prove it. Good friend that she is. And so she said, prove it. And I was like, oh, okay. You mean actually walk my talk? So I went into the bathroom. I did a little kind of self-love in terms of like thinking about why I rock. I put a little, juice in my drawers kind of thing, and got all back to being my fine, sexy self, not thinking, but being. Walked out of the room, literally walked into a room, met a guy, our eyes connected across the room, and I knew we were going to dance, and I don't just mean at the party. And that was the beginning of a 20-year relationship. It didn't shift until my internal shifted. Nothing else changed out there. What shifted was my belief around my value, my belief around what was possible, and my belief about being able to receive it. Okay? Because there's three components to it. Is it me? Is it okay for me? Does it exist? And can I allow it in? Okay? And all three of those right now, you've got some blocks up. So it's not necessarily about being in the right room, honey. It's being in the right state. Once that shifts, then you will start being in the right room, and you will start finding the one person in the Mary Kay crowd that does have the money, okay? But you will also stop being in those rooms because those rooms are full of people with a lot of scarcity beliefs as well. Okay, so you stop hanging out with people who think like you, and start hanging out with the people who think like you will be thinking from this point forward. So internal work on money, internal work on value, external work on positioning in terms of going where they're not. Okay, so position against, meaning don't be the same as everybody else. Literally, take the positioning of someone who is a guru in the habit creation industry, put it in ChatGPT and say, tell me how to be everything this person's not, so that I appeal to the rebel market who are not focused, disciplined, or don't believe that they can trust themselves to create results, because that's the real core. We don't trust ourselves. Okay. The second thing is that, so first, internal belief. Second thing is positioning. Third thing is shift the money. Now, a lot of coaches will tell you, raise your rates. And frankly, I think that's BS, because if you can't get it out of your mouth, there's no point in setting an arbitrary amount that you won't say. You have to be able to sell whatever it is that you set as your rate. So if any coach tells you, oh, you should be charging $200 an hour, and you try and set your rates there, you won't get it because you don't believe it yet. And I would encourage you to stretch outside your comfort zone and your current belief zone. So I would encourage you to raise your rates to a minimum of $75 and to not discount when someone says,
I can't
afford it or whatever. If they can't afford 75, they can't afford 50. If they can't afford 50, they can't afford 45. So the bottom line is, when someone says I can't afford it, that's not really what they mean. What they mean is, I don't see the value of what's in it for me. Okay? So your response is not to hear I can't afford it as a challenge about the money. Your response is to hear it as, I don't understand the value. Please explain it to me better. Okay, I don't get what's in it for me. And if that's the case, you probably have not done enough diagnosis about what the pain is and the price they're paying for not addressing what you can help them with. So go back to helping yourself and them understand how expensive it is to not deal with this issue. What it's costing them emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, to not be able to achieve and accomplish what it is they want to accomplish in their life. That's not manipulation, that's service. What happens with a lot of coaches is we let our stuff get in the way. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want them to think that I'm pushing them, or that I'm just about the money. And I. The key there is I. That's ego. You really want to be in service, get over there in their shoes. What prices are they paying for this ongoing issue? Are you willing to be uncomfortable enough to actually be in service to push them to a clear yes or a clear no? It's not about you have to buy me. It's about a clear yes or a clear no. We're not for everybody, and everybody is not for us. When you're willing to have no be okay, you're going to hear a lot more yeses. And right now, your approval stuff is getting in the way of your sales. I don't want them to think badly, so I'll lower my prices. Okay, that's just approval stuff getting in the way. Being in service means I own my value. I get that you are valuable and you can create results. You can't be a stand for someone to be successful in their life and then approach them as if they can't make shit happen. It's hypocritical. Does that make sense to you, Ronnie?
Yes.
To say, I'm going to help you be wildly successful, but, I guess you can't manifest $75 an hour. I guess you can't make a decision on your own to kind of stretch and come up with what you need to do to have support in your life. That's hypocritical. That's you taking their power away. If you truly want to see them as powerful enough to succeed, see them as powerful enough to afford you. You hear me? Is that going in? Okay. Because
let's say on a sales call, they say all that. I almost feel like I'm trying to convince them or challenge them or coach them if I start asking them what price are you willing to pay to stay like this.
Yeah. Well, A, you are challenging, and B, somewhat coaching. C, not convincing. So here's the line that I want you to use going forward. Look, I want you to know that a clear no is okay and a clear yes is okay. But a no that is being pushed by limiting beliefs is not okay with me. As a coach, my goal is to support you in being free of limitations. And so it wouldn't be me being in service if I let you give me a bullshit answer like, I can't afford it. Now, if you said to me, I choose not to invest in you at this time, that's a clear no. I'm fine with that. But I'm not fine with you buying your limitations. So let's talk about what really the fear or the challenge or the block is so you can get to a clear yes or a clear no. That's called being in service. And when it really is your heart, that it's not a kitschy technique, when you really want to support them and challenge them outside of their comfort zone, because all the results they're getting right now are inside their comfort zone. If you're willing to push them outside their comfort zone, and by the way, be uncomfortable doing it, because you got to model it, now you're being in service. Now you're going to get them to where they can actually get results. So my big 3-word solution to one of the blocks you have right now, and to anyone who's struggling with sales and marketing, my 3-word solution to that resistance is get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about them and truly, deeply being in service to help them overcome the limitations that have got them where they are and kept them where they are, but that will not get them where they want to go. Okay?
Yes.
So
I'm nodding yes in case people are listening.
Yeah. So there's 3 components that we've been talking about. We've covered a lot. I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability in this. One is really doing some of the inner work on value and money. The second is adjusting your positioning to be the solution that people need and that are not being directly addressed. Go and talk to your clients and do some research to get their language around it so that you understand your positioning for that market. Now, by the way, goal achievement for rebels is still a pretty broad market. And in fact, probably still way too broad. Goal achievement for highly creative and highly high achieving but highly creative women that's not well positioned, but you want to sub niche down so that, and the reason for this is that you want people to be able to raise their hand and say, yeah, that's me. You want them to be able to see themselves in the description. If someone's selling something for women, I don't respond. Like, that's half the population. Dude, how do I know if that's going to apply to me? But if someone says, I have a way for maturepreneurs to step into even more impact, now you've got my attention, because I would raise my hand and say, yeah, that's me. I'm an older entrepreneur who wants to have more impact in the world and up my game. Okay. So, and if someone says it's for entrepreneurs, still way too broad. Okay. Entrepreneurs who've been at this game for 30 years and haven't gotten as far as they want to get, raise my hand. Okay. You want them to raise their hand. That's why you niche down. It's not for you, it's for them. That's number one reason. Number two reason is then you can find them because they're called something. If I said to you, look up your market in the phone book, for those of you old enough to remember a phone book, you wouldn't know where to go look because your market's all over the place. So you can't find the meetings that are going to be, and the places and the locations and the publications and the events that have your people. So find the events that have your people because you know who your people are. Okay. And your people, Ronnie, are you 5 years ago. Okay. Your people are the people who you were longing for, what you longed for 5 years ago. And yes, I know COVID bumped you off your path, but even if it hadn't have, I suspect you would have wanted to deepen the level of contribution and difference you were making, that there was a certain degree of gratification with your training, your physical training business. But as you grew and mature, when you talked about, I love to see that glimmer when they light up, you lit up. When you talk about, I love to be on stage and have someone come up and say, oh, I heard that you were talking to me. That's the depth of contribution, the depth of difference that we want to make, that you wouldn't have been able to make as much in your old job. So you would have found your way to this, I call it transformational work, from the educational work you were doing. You just had that catalyst that pushed you and pushed lots of people like you. So step into the transformational work, stop selling the educational work. Okay. Now, when we have further conversations and so forth, we'll talk about group versus one-to-one, because you're right, it's not scalable. We'll talk about a business model that makes sense for you, that you will actually do, because it's one thing to say, you know, cookie cutter solutions are for cookies, not for business models and for people. And I just want you to hear who you are as a creative, as a scanner, as the person who didn't ever quite fit into that constrained model is a gift. That part of you is the thing that people long to be celebrated for, and that you deserve to be celebrated for. Because that's the part of you that sees the value in those people, sees them for who they really are and for why they matter. Sees them when lots of other people have just seen them as flaky, not serious, not buckling down, not doing enough, not disciplined, all of those words that are judgments for not enough. There are so many people who need to hear, not only are you enough, but you matter. And your way of doing things is not wrong. You just need to find the way that works for you. And that's what I'm here to help you with. That's where you make the difference, my friend. Those are the people who need you. Those are the people who will value you. And as you get clearer on that, those are the people that will start to resonate with your message.
So more on the message rather than the niche. You know how, and you know, I'll let you end with this, but you know how years ago it's like, find your avatar, make sure is she 42 years old, wear high heels, wears this kind of perfume, get detailed. It's like, I don't want to get detailed, because it could be men, women, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 20s. You know, I don't want, you know, it's more of someone like me, because I'm the same as I was in my 20s as I am now deep down in my beliefs.
True, but would you have bought you in your 20s?
No, because I'm wiser now. I wasn't wise then.
Exactly.
Right.
So you need people who are wise enough to know that they need the support you have to offer them. So my bet is that who will buy you is you 5 years ago, and they're going to look a lot like you. And if you go and look at the people that you've had the most success with, you're going to start to see a trend. You're going to start to see a type. You're going to see an age bracket. You're going to see the type of level of achievement, like they're all middle managers, or they're all, VPs, or they're whatever. And there are always going to be outliers in our world, but we tend to attract a type because we tend to want to be the solution for them that we didn't have when we had that problem. So you're going to want to attract the people who have that problem that you had. Okay. For most coaches, that's the case.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you with one other piece of visual for you. Have you ever tried to chop a log with an axe?
I've never tried to chop a log.
Okay. If you did, and you've seen people try and do it and so forth, if they flip the axe over and they try and split the log with the thick edge of the axe, it just goes thunk, 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 right? Whereas if they split it and they turn it over and hit it with the thin edge of the wedge, it penetrates the log.
Right.
You trying to be all things to all people is going thunk, thunk, thunk in the marketplace. You leading with the thin edge of the wedge, right? Habit creation for high achieving creatives is the thin edge of a wedge.
Yeah.
Or habit creation for people with no willpower is the thin edge of the wedge. Then you can bring in those other people, those other situations, those other solutions. But if you try and be all things to all people, you are nothing special to anyone, and you will not resonate. So it's not that you have to say no to people by picking a market. It's that you have to be clear. Think of it also like this way. If you walked into a room full of people, all different kinds of people, and you said, "Hey, everybody, I'm here to help," how many people would respond? They'd probably all start to move a little bit away from you, right? So if you're having a conversation with one person and you say, "Who are you? What are you up to? What do you care about? And you listen for how you can help them," then you respond to that person about what they need. That's called communication. And by the way, all good marketing is a conversation with one person. Don't stand on a chair and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm here. What do you need?" That doesn't work. You wouldn't do it in real life. Don't do it in your marketing or your business. Okay? And just know that as a scanner, to tell you to pick one thing, it doesn't work, right? That's why you rebel against it. So I wouldn't say pick one thing. I would say pick this problem you want to solve and the type of people that most have that problem. Okay? And focus on solving that problem for them. That's your thin edge of the wedge. Okay?
Yes, I hear you.
All right. So tell me, how has this been for you? What's your biggest takeaway, and what are you going to apply immediately?
Start talking about myself, and not in a selfish way. It's that if I feel this way, if I'm not the only one, and someone will feel, "Oh my gosh, that's me."
Yes.
I always felt like I'm really good at a lot of things. This is what my mom meant, by the way. She told me when I was older. She said, you just, oh my God. She used the word scattered, but in Spanish. She says, "You're great at a lot of things, but you don't focus on one thing, and you don't just stick to one thing." And I was like, so yeah, if there are others that they feel afraid that they're not excellent and superior at one thing, but they're pretty good at a lot of things.
Yeah. And we can also delve. I have an in-depth expertise on marketing and various topics because I've been at it 40 years. So I'm an expert in a narrow areas, but I'm also very broad, and my predisposition is scanning. So exactly, we're good at a lot of things. But we live in a world where we're told that we have to excel at one thing.
We have to be the star, the gold medal winner. Yeah.
And it came out of the fact that we went from the Renaissance to the industrial age, where literally people were put in assembly lines and you put on one bolt on the car. And our thinking hasn't evolved out of that back to the Renaissance age. We're Renaissance people living in an industrial world in terms of thinking, and your Renaissance people need you.
Yes.
To help them understand that they are much more than putting one bolt on one car in one way. Okay?
Okay.
So what's your action step going to be?
Starting with my internal beliefs.
Okay.
Because it has to stem from there.
Yep. Okay, so what are you going to do specifically? What's the action step?
Keep reminding myself what my true strengths are, where I have helped people, where I have failed them, because I was trying to pound the square peg in the round hole.
Yeah.
Or that it was their fault and I just didn't reach them, and that's okay.
Okay, and so how are you going to specifically do that? How are you going to do a kind of an audit of the things that you have that are valuable? Or the skills or the resources or the perspectives? How specifically are you going to bring that forward tangibly for yourself?
Oh, tangibly. Well, one practice is I usually write at least 3 things, but it ends up being a list of 6 or 7 of things I'm grateful for in the morning, just really quick on a pad.
Yeah.
But I can start writing what I'm grateful for real quick, and also that tweak in the internal belief. I'm a scanner. Yeah. And my scanner will stop at something. Yeah. And then so scanners do stop at something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we come back and so forth. So, okay, great. So add to your day. So what I hear is you're going to add to your daily practice, beyond just your gratitudes, something that is a reframe or a new belief that you are going to practice and turn into a habitual way of thinking versus the old belief.
Exactly. And that will also, I will implement that, my positioning in all my content and talk and emails and all that from now on.
Okay, so can I give a couple of pieces of homework that you can optionally do or not, but I'm going to recommend a couple of things that will support you. Okay. 1, I would encourage you to create a sheet, 2 columns, old belief, new belief. Write down as many conscious beliefs that you are aware of now when it comes to money, value, education, worth, bills, anything to do with your current beliefs around money, business, etc. Write down your current beliefs, okay, under the old beliefs column. All of them. Positive and negative, doesn't matter. Just write them all down. Okay, like it's, I'm afraid to be in one niche or genre because I'll get fewer clients. That's one belief you have right now. I'm afraid of not working. Okay, I need to pay the bills. Okay, so these are all beliefs. Just write them all down. Then go and just put a little star or X or whatever beside the ones that you know are currently limiting you. Okay, that are not supportive. Don't have you be more effective, because some of them will be supportive and help you be more effective, but put an X beside the ones that don't help you. And in the other column, write down a new belief. Okay, you don't necessarily have to think it's true. You don't have to believe it. You just write a new belief. If you struggle with that, Byron Katie, who is a woman, does something called The Work. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you can look up The Work. She has a little worksheet that is basically a personal growth workshop in 1 page. And it just has us loosen up our beliefs. So you take the belief, you write it down, and the first question is it true? And most of the time we'll write yes. And then the second question is, something along the lines of, can I know that this is always absolutely the truth? Yeah, we start to go, well, maybe not always, or maybe not in every, we start to loosen it up. And who am I when I hold this belief, and what other beliefs could exist? And then you do a turnaround. So it walks you through a series of 4 questions and what's called a turnaround that supports you in reframing beliefs and coming up with different perspectives, because you want to write a whole bunch of different beliefs, right? For that one that could also be true, because the reality is we're making it all up, so we might as well make up a better story. So I encourage you to do that as a way to just bring to mind very tangibly, what are the beliefs that are limiting me? What's a better story I'm going to tell? And then create some kind of supportive structure around that. For me, I put up Post-its around my environment so I see them consistently. Kind of reinforces it visually, just there, subliminally, sometimes consciously, with the new belief. You do whatever works for you, but at least you're going to be aware of what are some of the beliefs I want to shift, okay?
Okie dokie. Yes, ma'am. And I will let you know because you and I are in touch.
Okay. And the second thing that I'm going to do and challenge you to is I want you to write 2 full pages, and I mean lined pages, not necessarily in a small book like this, but 8.5 by 11, but at least 2 full pages on why you rock.
Okay.
Personally,
Okay.
professionally, skills, knowledge, personal traits, anything and everything. Okay. You can start with I rock red lipstick. Okay. Whatever it is.
Okay.
2 pages, why you rock. And you don't get to stop until you fill the whole 2 pages. Okay. And set a time limit on it. Like it has to be done within a week or something like that. Otherwise it'll peter out. Okay.
Okay.
Just stretch yourself to claim and own some of that value. You may not own it right away, but at least in the writing it down and thinking about it, you're going to stretch outside your comfort zone, because I guarantee you're probably going to write down 10, 15 and pause and start to kind of slow down and go, I don't know, push yourself. 2 full pages.
Alrighty.
All right, my friend, thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to be coached. And we will likely try and cut this down. I don't know how we're going to edit it, but we'll see what we can do with it. Thank you for being willing to be coached live and in person. Hopefully these were some great takeaways for you that you can apply. As
Yes.
you know, taking action on them is the only way to make a difference. So let me know how it goes. All right?
You know, in my homework to you, didn't I put walk the talk?
Yeah.
I think this is what happened. I wasn't walking the talk. I know these things in theory. Okay, Ronnie, apply it to myself.
You got it. And that's why I have 2 coaches, because we don't necessarily, I've been coaching for 40 years. I have 2 coaches because I can't see what I can't see. Right. So, yeah.
Or take the time for yourself. Thank you so much, Janet. I will talk to you soon.
Bye, hon. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.